I guess we'll just kind of go ahead and let them start kind of at the beginning and let us know how things started and how they grew from there, and then maybe after that we'll just have some questions.
Coming out of the turbulent 60s and the swirly beginning of the 70s, and they'd gotten a wonderful dean that was making a stand for Christ again. And he was trying to turn the school around into having a Christian viewpoint, integrate their Christianity with their classroom. And so I thought, yeah, this is what I want to do. I said, I'm a PE teacher. I just finished my master's in experiential ed. And you want to start a wilderness program? Right up my alley, I'll do it. So I came here and I got my contract. I was teaching 18 and a half contact hours in phys ed. I was the sponsor of the cheerleaders. That's not me. And I was the coach of the men's tennis team. And I played field hockey in college. I said, okay, here I go. Meanwhile, I have modern dance, folk and square dance, tennis, which was fine, canoeing, backpacking, outdoor recreation, nature study, then first aid, standard first aid and safety. And trying to do all that, order all my equipment, my climbing ropes, all my gear. I said, oh, this is really a big job. Now you want me to run this in the summer and you want all this other stuff. And I said, you know, this is too much for one person. The rest of the teachers in the department were all athletic people. And there was a very good department, but they were all into their coaching and their varsity sports. I said, you know what? I believe in what we're doing, but if you have me teaching 18 and a half contact hours, sponsoring, then they gave me volleyball and women's tennis, so I dropped the cheerleaders and the men's tennis we got Don King to do. I said, I know just the person who can really build a program because he is good with a hammer and nail. He knows, he's been in the ground floor at Honey Rock's Vanguard program, and he would be ideal to come and do this with us. So I recommended Jake Wetzel to take over the outdoor, we hadn't gotten a name for it yet, but it'd be like Wheaton's Vanguard or what's now called Discovery. And so Jake came down for an interview. They liked him. Dean Wilson really liked you. And he and his wife Sarah came to, were you in Howerton first? Yeah. They were the dorm directors of Howerton. And then Jake's other job was building a Discovery program. But first, we had to convince the college what Discovery should be. They were kind of in on the idea of, you know, it's just the rage. All of a sudden, we used to call it, what do we used to call it? Stress wilderness camping. Then everybody realized you better take that stress out of there. You know, we were the old outward bound school where everything was stress outward bound. And we had to convince the faculty and the staff that what we wanted to do was a lot more than just skills, things like that. And so I remember talking with President Vaughn, and he'd say, now why should we even have a program like this? And trying to really convince him what our vision would be, not only for our school, but for maybe the community and growing later. My involvement was basically in the school year, because I was still hooked into Honey Rock, leading programs and working with their programs in the summer. So I taught outdoor recreation and nature study, which was really fun, because I could make it anything I wanted. Because you got outdoor recreation, so I concentrated on the canoeing, the backpacking, the climbing, and bringing my kids all over in nature study. And that was back in the 70s. I don't know if you've ever heard of a guy named Steve Van Meter. He was the forerunner of the touchy-feely kind of stuff. So I used his books, Acclimatizing and Acclimatization, and we used to run a day program for ACA. Ms. Schuett would bring her fourth graders over, and I'd have them spread out all over campus, basically at the lake, and we'd do lots of things outdoors with them. We called it our Nature Day. And then I taught group dynamics, leadership skills, and those were my input into the rec majors. But right toward the end of the 70s, it really became an in thing for public schools and private schools to have an outdoor ed day or an outdoor education where you bring your classroom for a day or maybe 2 or 3 days. Like the Y Camp, has anybody been to Camp Greenville? You need to take them down to Camp Greenville just to have a look-see at the Y Camp. I've been with both of my kids' 6th grade class over here at Owen Middle, and we have had like a 2-night, 3-day trip to Camp Greenville, and they do a whole bunch of outdoor ed stuff with the kids. It's a good thing going. So that was the beginning stages, 1974. I came, ordered, Paul Petzel and I would get, no, not Paul, but I'd get on the phone and start ordering all this Goldline rope and all the other stuff that we needed. And so I got all this equipment here, and then Jake came, built all this great stuff to house everything. And he really took it over from there. Block canoes, remember going down to Florida, getting those Mohawk canoes? Gosh, okay. Lots of stories. But Jake was the one who really started building after that.
So as you can tell, I mean, we've been friends for 30 years long,
Yeah.
and it's you know, it's been a great gift from God to be able to
Still be
work together and
Yeah.
you know,
I had Ben as a student.
do what we love. So
Can you believe that? Who looks older, Ben or me?
Don't answer that question.
I want that on tape.
so my story, or in God's timing, I was again like Penny working in Honey Rock. That's where we met, and Wheaton College was just starting to, you know, the Outward Bound schools, you know, it's an educational process. They were just starting to look at it to see if it's something they wanted to get into. And so the first Outward Bound schools in the United States started in '65. And we were working the summer program, starting to do more wilderness trips. And so then they asked a couple of us if we wanted to go to Outward Bound to see what they're doing and then integrate it in a Christian context. And so when we went to Outward Bound, we went, wow, there's tons of opportunities for teaching biblical principles. I mean, really, the Bible tells us how to relate to one another, you know, how to work as a group. I mean, it's just, and so it was exciting. And so I was able to be, in '69 is when Wheaton started their first high road discovery, they call it Vanguards, 3-week wilderness program. And so I was one of the, they had 3 groups, I was one of the leaders in the first group. And I worked with that for 5 years.
College freshman.
Yeah, college freshmen coming in, and then started doing training for adults. There's, you know, tons of camps were interested in what was going on. So every May they started a May seminar, which was just for adults. And so, so I was working in those wilderness programs for 5 years, and you know, totally sold on you know, how God can use that experience and change lives and just worship Him. And so it was then in '75 when Penny had Montreat contact us and said, hey, we want to start an outdoor program here at Montreat. And we were like Penny, once Sarah and I came down here and saw the place, we went, yeah, this is nice. There's mountains right at your back door, you know. And so that was neat. How then, you know, they offered us a contract to come, and since there was nothing, I mean, there was a couple courses, but nothing really going, we had to do something, you know, to start. And so that's why Sarah and I were dorm parents in Howerton our first year. And so that was half-time, and then the other half, I was given freedom to, we had to write proposals for adding new classes. And whenever you add a new class, you have to go to through the faculty and the academic committees, and you know, to get all the approval. And Dean Wilson, Larry Wilson, really helped us. I mean, if he wasn't 100% behind what we were doing, I don't think it would have went. And so that was he was a great help and motivator through that whole time. But the faculty, yeah, they said, yeah, let's do it. Let's, get onto this. And so, we were able to add a bunch of the outdoor courses and change some of the other ones. And it was neat. I think there was two focuses at the start. Montreat was a junior college then. And so one of the focuses was if we wanted to have these outdoor classes, then we needed time away to do some day trips. You just couldn't do everything in an afternoon or that. And so for the faculty, that was a big deal back then. Getting excused, to go rock climbing or canoeing, And so we made a bargain, like most of the class. Like canoeing, we could do afternoon trips, on the Catawba, French Broad, but then we needed 2 days, and so we said, okay, we'll do one of them on Saturday, but there's just not enough weekends to do everything. And so, when they give permission for the other day trip to be during a school day, and and they, this was pretty radical back then, but they bought the idea, and so in all the classes we were able to do, use a weekend, but then also started, counting it as since it was a class, counting it to be an excused, during the weekend. So that was a great step. Because we didn't want the skills classes, we wanted them to be meaningful, where you really are learning something. And then I think the other emphasis was training students to be able to be leaders. There still is just a huge demand for in camps, looking for people to head up their outdoor programs. Whether it was outdoor education or whether it was their wilderness adventure program. And so we focused on our classes on training the students so that they could go into these camps and be in charge, head them up. And it was great. We had 5 or 6 every summer, camps were looking for people who were trained to be able to run these type of programs. And so that was our focus, was personal growth, through discovery, and then also training them to lead programs. And
What year was the first discovery?
76. Yeah. Came in 75, and then spring of 76 was the first.
You'd run it after school, like graduation would be on the first week of May, and then you'd go on Discovery 2 days later, or a day later, right?
Day later, yeah. We usually left right after graduation. And it worked out great because May was a great month. You weren't in the summer where there was tons of people, and the water levels were still high, so it's just a great time of the year to go. May was ideal. So it worked out really well. And so that was great. We just enjoyed, trying to do what we could and add. And we started, there was also, have a heart for ministry also, and that is a lot of church youth groups were looking for some type of growth experience, and that's where we started the 1-week wilderness trips. And we had church groups would drive into the gym, and we'd outfit them, and the first night, we'd be out on the trail, and we'd do the backpacking and do a day of canoeing and a rappel in there. And then at the end of the week, we'd hike back in, shower, and they'd be on their way. And so that turned out really well. And we had a few summers we were running at least 30 groups, three youth groups every week. And there was a lot of interest. So that's what we were doing, and Ben was here and.
Ben, what year did you
we became
graduate?
Friends and
78.
we felt, God called us to Bolivia to be involved with camp work. And so we left in 84 and they hired Ben to continue on and we were overjoyed that Ben was the man. And he took it to new heights.